Hey everybody, it's Coding Clarity here again, back with another video. Last video, which was a little while ago, was on Drupal and I showed how I made it show schedules and such. Well, today I wanted to go into CORS. I have a bunch of links about it, but I think it's a pretty important topic to be talking about as we go into this new decade. Basically, CRS is called cross-origin resource sharing. So a lot of different sites pull different resources from other websites um, when you're trying to run something. For example, uh, they have a bunch of in here. So let's say domain A makes request domain B for a resource. CRS utilizes HTTP headers to determine whether or not the domain is allowed to access a specific resource. So if you are trying to access a resource that's only for administrators on a school website, for example, it's going to check your privileges, check who you are, and then see whether or not you can have that resource. But this can be also a huge security risk. Let's say, I'm trying to find a good example. There's a lot of different examples here. Let's try this one. Let's say that you go onto a website and it, without telling you, pretty much decides, oh, yeah, this person here, we're going to take all his data and send it to our other site over here. That's not going to, but let's not tell him that we're doing that. So that's the big problem now is you need to be very secure while using the internet. And it's not even just the website you're on currently. Where is your information that you're using going to, is it going to other websites or other domains? A lot of this is relatively a new issue, and I think it's a really important thing to be talking about. So, sorry I keep jumping between links. What I wanted to do today was to basically take a couple of really interesting resources. I'll put them in the description as well, and just try to go into CORS or cross-origin resource sharing, how it works, what exactly it is, and how to be more secure, so that you don't have, you're not having your information that you're sharing to one site potentially being shared with some other random site. So to implement CRS securely, you need associated validation lists with access control allow origin that identifies which specific domains can access resources. Then your application can validate against this list when a domain requests access. Now, this CRS security vulnerability is more for a developer. There's two different types of headers: access control allow origin, access control allow method. So access control allow origin specifies which domains can access the site's resources. For example, if your domains are abc.com and xyz, the developer can use a header to typically grant xyz access to abc's resources. So it's just saying one domain can access from another domain and what's allowed, what's not allowed. Access control allow methods specify which HTTP requests get pull delete can be used to access resources. This header lets developers further enhance security by specifying what methods are valid when XYZ accesses ABC's resources. So if you know HTTP requests get, put, delete, there's other ones as well, but these are the main ones. This access control header is more about methods, get, put, delete, where this one is about resources and what is able to pull from where, pretty much, if you were to specify. Let's go to another link. So this one goes in again to what CRS, but it's a good one. I like their definition. A security mechanism allows a web page from one domain or origin to access a resource from another domain. It also shows a little bit more into examples with, I think this one's a little more user-friendly for people who are into coding and like to see charts and demos, where the other one was way more just, you know, how to be safe. There's also Code Academy has a really, really good resource for CRS if you want to learn more. It talks about policies. It also goes into why it's necessary, which I think it's important to talk about. So I'll quickly just touch up and specify some important lines that I thought weren't here. How does CORS manage requests from external resources? So it talked about access control and such, but here's a bunch more. And then pre-flight requests, we talked about put, delete, there's another ones in here. Has some nice charts and then a little bit of how to implement it. And then there's one other resources I wanted to quickly show besides these. I showed this earlier, but you know how APIs work? I think it's important to talk about APIs as well. So APIs would be any of these, and there's a ton more, but if you're making an application, a lot of people want to pull data from other applications and throw them onto the little coding project. Let's say you're doing a little coding assignment where you're trying to get movie recommendations, but you don't want to have to write every movie that exists, and you know that people have done that. You know how when you use an API, I could even do a video if you guys find it interesting on APIs, but if you do an API and you want to pull data from that API and use it in yours, like I said, the movie list example, you can type in a address that people give you, sometimes there's keys involved as well, and it'll then spit out data depending on what you put in your search. If you put in that you like comedy, you're not going to get horror movies. So CORS is like the same concept where you're using other resources that are already existing and putting it into the web address and other parts of your calls, or in this case, HTTP headers, and you can instruct the browser, hey, I want these resources from a different server. Now, make sure security is #1 on this, because if you have any sensitive material that only admins can get, or 1 or 2 people who made the original site can get, such as if this site uses credit cards or stuff like that, you don't want that to be something people can just pull if they type in the right header, you know? So it is a very, very, very important resource and a very important thing to include when you're working with a huge amount of data or information that you don't want everyone to see but want certain people to be able to pull. But it's also something that you really need to be careful about in just a multitude of ways, because it's definitely super useful, but security needs to be #1 priority with CRS. So I'll have these links at the bottom. I really think it's worth reading. There's way more than what I read on here, but I was trying to skim it and not just throw a bunch of information. That's why it's called Coding Clarity. But yeah, thank you very much.